Hey, this is Dr. Paul. Let me share with you a major business model that's taking place right now. We're actually doing right now that's going to increase, that's going to create about a 300 to about a $600,000 a year passive income. Let me share with you exactly how that works, okay? So, we actually teach and coach personal injury marketing and documentation, things like that. And it's great. It's great to build your practice. You can do very well just with your practice alone. But here's what this is in addition, or if you just wanted to do this by yourself. But what happens is when we deal with attorneys, in other words, we know how to communicate with attorneys to create referrals. That's what we're really good at. And when we do, the attorneys will have maybe a few monthly referrals to our particular location. And then most of the time, their other patients are outside of our geographic radius of draw. Now we're talking about staying in the same county. So this works really well if you're in like a real high metro area, with a population of over, like say 250,000. If you're in a real rural area, now you're talking about maybe two or three counties, but generally one county is enough. That's all you need. And the attorneys stay within one county. 80% of the attorneys stay within one county. That's where they do all their business. Their offices are down at the county courthouse. So again, it depends how many cities you have in your county, what the population is of those. But anyway, you get the idea. So here's what happens. When we create the referrals, there's all this other business that's not being taken care of. In other words, it's too far for the patient to come to us. Now, what we don't want to do is we don't want to just start, because a lot of times the attorney will say, can you go, because they really like what we do with our documentation. So we get a lot of referrals. And then they'll say, well, can you go over here? Because they'll ask us to be their expert witness too. They'll say, well, can you go over here? And the worst thing you could do now is open like a part-time office over there to service one attorney for 2 or 3 cases a month. And now you're running back and forth. And there's a lot of chiropractors that do that. You do not want to do that. That's when you double your work and, wear yourself ragged. That is not the way to do it. So the way to actually do it is when there's enough business in that particular area, it's actually to train a chiropractor, put them in that office and run it and keep it. That's okay. But let's go to the hybrid. Let's go to the passive income model now without even talking about that. So this is how you can increase your business another $300,000, $600,000 a year. And we're only talking about 10 PI cases a month to increase your business 300. Now I'm talking passive income now too. Okay. So here's what happens. And we're literally doing this right now. As a matter of fact, I just signed up 11 doctors. So I'm in a county. It's a high density population county. And there's a lot of cities. It's kind of unusual because we've got 5 major cities of 100,000. We got another 6 cities of 70,000. So a little different than most metro areas where chiropractors practice, but it still is the same. So you can have as little as 10 cases a month. That's a month, and have a passive income of $300,000. And if it was 20, you're talking about 600,000. So here's how it works: is we work through other chiropractors, and I just literally got off the road today. I signed up 2 more chiropractors today to treat my personal injury patients. So what I do is I get an agreement with the other chiropractors in the strategic locations of the major metropolitan areas within the county. Might be 2, might be 3 areas, might be 5. Totally depends on the population of your county and how many cities there are. But you can kind of do the math yourself as we move along this thing. Okay. So here's what happens. Remember, we create the referrals. We know how to create referrals. We got great documentation. But most of these cases, that the attorneys have, don't come to our office. So what we do is we get an agreement. Now, this is a co-management agreement with strategic chiropractors at these other locations. And you go, well, what's in it for them and what's in it for you? Well, the bottom line, what's in it for them is we'll give them 70% of the total collected revenue from the personal injury case for treating the patient. I'm not treating the patient. I'm not running back and forth from office to office to office. As a matter of fact, I don't treat any patients at all. I just do this with all offices. This is all I do. But if you have your own office, obviously you want to treat the patients directly that do come to you. Okay. But this is how you could double and triple. In other words, when you actually get an attorney to send you business, they're going to want to deal with you. Well, now you get all their business. So when I sell an attorney, I get all his referrals. As an example, a couple months ago, we just sold 2 attorneys. Well, they had a total of 25 personal injury cases between both of them, 25. Well, there was only about 6 to 8 cases a month that were coming to the 2 chiropractors' offices that we were doing the presentation for. That was it, which is still good. But that was what, 15, 18, 17 PI cases that were not. In other words, it was $1 million. That one presentation created $1 million in personal injury patient referrals. One presentation. That was 25. So instead of walking away from those other 15, 16, 17 patients, we strategically create co-management agreements in all these other metropolitan areas. And basically we say, hey, you treat the patient. We're going to co-manage them. It's not a kickback referral. It's co-management. I'm involved with the diagnosis, therapeutics, biomarkers, everything. I'm not doing it now. So I give them 70%, I keep 30%, but I also keep 100% of the diagnostics. So we'll do the math here. And you can do the math based on what your case average is in your city. Now, here it's pretty good. We're in Florida, so it's about $5,000 for an average case. Obviously, it can be more or whatever, but I'm just saying just average. It's about, in Florida, it's about 5,000. A lot of other areas, it might be 3,000, 3,500, something like the lowest I've ever seen is 2,500. So you're probably going to be $3,000 or $4,000 if you're anywhere else. Okay. So here's how it works. So I just signed up 2 more chiropractors today to treat my patients. So I create the referrals because we know how to do that, but they have to follow the documentation. See, because I can't give them, I can't tell the attorney I'm giving this great product. And then I got 20 different Yahoo chiropractors who don't even know what they're doing, don't know personal injury documentation, and putting 20 different kinds of notes together with crappy notes and a big bill, because that's really what's going on in the profession. Well, we can't have that. So we have a checklist. We go, okay, the only thing we want you to do is you're going to use our electronic health record system. So there's consistency and high quality. And then there's essentially the whole checklist of documentation. So they know what to do and if it was done. And it's real easy for me to go online to see if it was done or not, what was missing, what they did do, what they didn't do. So quality control is real high. There's a checklist. They're trained in the checklist. They use our electronic health words. And it's literally like paint by numbers, do number 1, number 2, number 3. That's how simple we make it. Okay. That's all they got to do. They just got to do our documentation, and they got to use our software to document it. And that's it. They get 70% of that case. We take 30%. Now it gets better because we also get 100% of the diagnostics. And the common diagnostics in chiropractic personal injury is the CRMA, the Dynarom, and the JTAX. Those are very common diagnostics that are pretty much done for every personal injury patient, low impact soft tissue spinal injury patient. So when you look at you go, well, what is the diagnostics? What's the reimbursement for the diagnostics? Well, let's just say it's $300. Some area it's $350. I know in the Northeast, a doctor, I think he charges $600 for a Dynarom test. And that's normal for the Northeast. So it really depends if you're rural, city, Northeast, Midwestern. Of course, you should already know that. That's how fees are. So, but let's just take some basic numbers. You go, okay, so we're already, so I'll use Florida as an example. So the average case is 5,000. So they get $3,000. I'm giving them $3,000 in referrals that they never would have gotten in the first place. Number one. And all they got to do is treat the patient. That's it. Now they do got to follow the checklist and to make sure there's quality control and high standards. Okay. We take 30%. So out of $5,000, roughly they're going to get 70. So they're going to get $3,500. We'll get 15. Okay, that's okay. That's pretty good for not having to do anything. And then you get, and that's per patient, by the way. And then you get 100% of the diagnostics. Well, when you look at the diagnostics of the CRM and the Dynarama JTAC, you could pretty much figure 300 per diagnostic test. And those diagnostic tests are done a minimum 2 times. They're done at the initial exam and they're done at MMI. So if you, let's just say they're 300, okay? So you go 3, 6, 9. So that's roughly $1,000 in diagnostics. You keep with 100% of that. And now it's done at MMI, $2,000 in diagnostics. So you got $1,500 from the case, and you got $2,000 from the diagnostics. We just got $3,500. Now, I'm not going to do the diagnostics. I'm actually training a medical assistant, like you know how they have the medical assistant schools. I'm actually just training a medical assistant how to do those tests. All of those tests are portable. And all she does is, all they do when they're trained is they just go to the different offices that's treating that patient. The diagnostics actually go to that office. Now, if you have your own office, it's pretty easy to have them come to you. That's what I would do if, you know, you have, because they'll drive further for, patients will definitely drive further for an important diagnostic test. They'll drive up to an hour once for an important diagnostic test. So you could easily just do it. And then you have your staff member do the test and then typically give them, you know, $25, $50 for doing those tests. So all of this is passive income. That's what works. So in this situation, I'll just share with you some basic numbers. So if it was only $900 and it was, let's say it was only done once in those diagnostics, plus the $1,500 that I would get for the 30%, well, that's $2,400 a case. And that's not me doing it. That's them doing the adjustments and my assistant doing the therapy. You're getting the point here. This is passive income. Well, that's $2,400. Well, 10 cases a month, that's $24,000. Over a year, $24,000 over a year, you're just under $300,000 from only 10 cases, passive income, and your assistants doing the work. And it's business we're already going to get. It's business that we've already created, but we're not getting because it's too far. And how much overhead do I have? I don't have any overhead. I don't have a brick and mortar. I don't have to go and sign a lease. I don't have to put equipment in it. I don't have to do any of that. And in my case, I don't even have an office. It's all going to be mobile. My assistant's going to just take the equipment and schedule the appointments and go to their offices where the patients are and do it in their offices. There's like literally no overhead except paying the staff member that's going to be doing it. So that's a lowball situation. Now, in Florida, like I said, if it's $5,000 a case, so you take, let's say you do the diagnostics twice. They typically should be done a minimum of twice during the initial exam and an MMI. So now you're at $1,800 in diagnostics. And remember, they'll pay for diagnostics way before they'll pay for therapeutics, way before. And the attorneys love the diagnostics because it's not the doctor's opinion and it's 100% objective. That's why. So you got 1,800. So you do those, what we said, if it was one patient, $900. So if it was twice, that's $1,800 per patient. And then you're getting 30% of the case. So 1,800 plus 1,500 is $3,300 a case that you're not even doing. I'm not even doing it. Multiply that times 10, only 10 cases a month, $33,000. Over a year, just under $400,000. And what's the overhead? Do we have space? No. Equipment is real. The equipment's relatively inexpensive. I mean, it does cost some money, but it easily pays for itself. And then we just have to hire somebody. Initially, they can just be hired part-time with a bonus, or they can just be hired where there's no pay. Everyone they do, so they don't get paid unless they do one. Then they get, see, now it doesn't cost you anything. And then you have a total separate billing service for this that takes maybe 3%, something like that. Overhead is hardly nothing. $400,000, less than $100,000 overhead, passive income, $300,000. And now this is especially important if you're one of my clients and you've been taught how to do this and create personal injury referrals from attorneys for your office, because that alone will increase your practice $250,000, $500,000, $1 million a year. That's what it does in your practice. So you take that, we just had a doctor increase their practice $1 million in 90 days, just from the referrals they got. And that didn't include all the other cases that the attorney wanted them to see, but it was too far out of their way. Well, the attorney will say, well, hey, can you put an office there? Well, you don't want to do that. Not until there's a lot of business there. Now, when there's a lot of business there monthly, like if they're getting like, say, 10 PI cases a month routinely in that area, well, then I would consider opening an office there and, and having a little more overhead and all that kind of thing. But at this point, there's little to no overhead, and it's all passive income. You're talking about $300,000 to $600,000 with either 10 to 20 cases a month. That's it. And you're not even processing them. That's what's going on. That's exactly what we're doing. And that's exactly what I'm teaching. I just signed up 11 doctors. A few weeks ago, I just sold 2 attorneys, both attorneys, all the referrals, all 25 referrals a month. That was a month, not a year. We captured all, and one of my doctors just did this. So he has his office that he increased his personal injury business $500,000. But he still had other areas that were too far for the attorney's patients to come to him. This is exactly what he did. And he got 4 other chiropractors to agree to these terms. He's making more money. He gets more referrals from those other 4 offices. And now he's a big player. When he shows up, he's got 5 offices when he shows up and talks to the attorney. And that's what the attorneys want, especially the big attorneys. They don't want 20 different chiropractors doing 20 different kinds of documentation. That's crazy. What they want, number one, is somebody who knows what they're doing with documentation. Well, we teach that. I taught that doctor in 90 days. He went from didn't know personal injury to increasing his business over $500,000 within 6 months. And that was from 6 attorneys. He did 1 presentation to 6 attorneys. 4 of them started referring him, all his patients. So he was missing the peripheral patients. So his business increased 500,000. And then he went to those other areas and got 4 other chiropractors to do this marketing management agreement. He just increased his business another $400,000 because that's who they want to deal with. The attorneys want his systems, his documentation, his consistency, his high quality. That's how it works. And that's why we get a lot of business. So anyway, if you're interested in learning more about how that works and you want the detail, give me a call. Again, I'm Dr. Paul, Chiropractic Personal Injury Marketing. I've been teaching personal injury documentation and marketing for 25 years, roughly. So we're really good at this. Every time we go in and we do presentations to attorneys, we walk out with all the referrals. Just so you know, the average attorney who only sees 3 cases a month loses over $250,000 a year from the chiropractor's bad documentation. Now, fortunately, for the chiropractor, the attorney doesn't know that. And actually, the chiropractor doesn't even know that. Well, they do when I get done talking to the attorney. I point out all the things that chiropractor's not doing and how he's costing that attorney a lot of money. He's losing a lot of money. And we not only stop that, we start maxing out this quality documentation, starts giving a 3-to-1 injury award or better, as opposed to 2-to-1. When you're getting 2-to-1, that's why you don't get referrals and they ask you to cut your bill. When you know how to give quality documentation that creates a 3-to-1 or greater injury award, that's when I've never had an attorney ask me to cut my bill. I've never had an attorney say, you send me a patient before I send you a patient. I've never had one attorney, because we stop them from losing a ton of money dealing with doctors who don't even know they don't know documentation. And we started creating high value injury awards. That's why, and we know how to present it. We not only know the documentation, we know how to talk to the attorney, give the presentation, and then walk out of there with all their PI referrals, just like what we did. I didn't know those two attorneys. I never know these attorneys when I do these presentations, but I always walk out with all their PI cases, because it's not about personality. It's about value. And we get that across. So anyway, if you're interested in how this works in greater detail, I've got the agreements. We go into all the questions they have. You know, the doctors have common questions, and we take care of all that. So if you're interested in how that works and you're interested in instituting that in your practice, give me a call. Again, I'm Dr. Paul, chiropractic personal injury marketing.com. And you can catch my phone number there too. I'm at 954. What is the number? Numbers are so much on the phone, you don't even remember them anymore nowadays. But it's 954-740-2722. And you can go to the website, chiropracticpersonalinjurymarketing.com, get the phone number, give me a call, and I'll send you that agreement and how it, it's basically all the questions that they have and how to win them over. And literally, I went to, let's see, the last probably 10 chiropractors I went to, 6 of them signed up. There's some chiropractors that just don't want to fool with personal injury, and those don't sign up. But this model we're using right now, over 50% of the chiropractors are signing up for it. And we know how to create the business. We know how to do the documentation, and we know how to talk to the attorney and do the presentation to get the business, not just for our office. Like I said, that doctor increased his personal injury $500,000 in his office. And because he got those other 4 offices, with the dynamics I just shared with you, taking 30% plus the diagnostics, he just increased his business another $400,000. He did that in 8 months. If you're interested in learning the details of it, you want me to like hold your hand and walk you through it, give me a call. Again, I'm Dr. Paul, chiropractic personal injury marketing.com. Check us out. Give me a call.